Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Ultimate Selling Series. I'm here today with Matthew Banover, and a little bit later, Peter Roberti will join us. I'm Alex Roberti. I'm going to be hosting today's session, and our goal today is focusing all on how to increase your sales. So whether that's prospecting so that you're selecting the right target audience, the right ideal client, how to position your brand in the marketplace, to how to leverage social media to get customers, and then how to just get repeat business from your current clients. So before we get started, I'm going to have Matt introduce himself, and then we have a few questions so we can really tailor this to what you guys want to hear about selling. So first, Matt, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Matthew Bandover. I am the customer service rep with Adrian Jules, also owner of Bard's Clothing.
Great. And Matt, how many years have you been in the men's fashion industry?
Going on about 13, 14 years, something like that.
Great. Yeah. And then I think Peter's been around the same, myself around the same. So collectively, probably around 50-ish years experience between the three of us when we get started. Okay. Well, before we dive into some great techniques to increase your sales, there is a chat on the right. So if you guys look, if you have any questions throughout this, we'll be monitoring that chat. So feel free to add questions, comments, and then we also have some polls that you can vote on. So let's get started with a few polls. The first one we have is going to be, how do you currently prospect? So if you go to the polls, you'll be able to vote on this. And prospecting, so how are you getting new clients? Is it through referrals? Are you using social media, doing cold calls, all of the above, or do you not prospect at all? So while we get information on that, Matt, if you want to just get started, when we talk about marketing, selling, something that's really important is, how are you setting your product or your brand apart from other companies? So in this competitive marketplace, Matt, for Bards or for the AJ product, how are you differentiating yourself and your tailored garment offerings to from your competitors?
There's pretty much no market on this planet, except for maybe real estate, that is more saturated than clothing. So leading with that always helps. Talk to your customers like they're intelligent people who know that they can get something similar anywhere else. So leading with that really sets the tone for, listen, I know where we both stand in this conversation. That is always such a great approach. Transparency, not just saying I've got something nobody else got, because then you're setting yourself up for the customer to sit back and be like, oh, really? Prove it. And if you don't 100% deliver on that, it's game over. So equalizing the playing field is always huge. Just saying, listen, I know there's a lot of great brands out there. There's a lot of great product. For instance, I used to work here. I sold this. Tell them about your experience in retail. My experience was, I came from the mall. I worked at Express, then Joseph A. Bank, then a boutique store. So I know retail from top to bottom, and I'll tell customers about that. This is why they sell this product at this price or this price. So when I have to differentiate myself in terms of what I do and what I sell, which is primarily American-based product, that's really where I start. All these big brands, LVMH, they've got factories all over the world. They've got their brands, making product in Bangladesh or China or Mexico or whoever else. There's very little quality control. I tell them, listen, I work with a factory that owns their patterns, and the factory's in Rochester. It's very small, very tight knit. It's something nobody else has access to. in terms of like there's no big buyers or investors, there's no global corporation, there's no big investment like that. So when I put myself in that position, people start to understand, oh, this actually is something different. There is something to this. Yes, I can get a suit for $100 on Instagram. This is not that. This is something completely different. So really leading with transparency and telling people, listen, I get it. And almost answering the questions or answering like what they've got already in their head first, call all that out, and then tell them how you're different. That's always going to be the best way to do that.
So it sounds like you're storytelling. So you're storytelling about yourself, about the brand, about the product. And how would you recommend for, let's say we have a few startups here, to cultivate that story?
Yeah, it's very difficult in the beginning when you're just getting started, in that people are going to ask for, well, let me see your product, let me see your clients, and you don't really have that. But what you do have is why you got started. So you can talk about your journey through whatever led you here. I think the beauty of retail is a lot of people can come from many different industries and backgrounds, and they find themselves in retail. Talk about that. Talk about why you decided to get into this market. So I am definitely a storyteller when it comes to marketing. I talk about my story a lot, because when you're interacting with somebody, it's almost like, try to think of it like a bank, withdrawals and deposits. You make a deposit when you're talking about yourself. It's only going to make them open up more about themselves. So when I talk about, yes, I did sell Joseph A. Bank, or I did sell something else, they're gonna ask. I know that they're gonna ask, well, why can't I get something cheaper? And I'll be like, oh, well, I actually did sell that, and here's why that this product is better, or here's why you would want this product. So you're opening up that trust, you're telling that story, and then they're gonna tell you, oh yeah, well, I used to buy all my stuff from Men's Warehouse, or I used to buy all my stuff from this boutique store, and that all that information you're storing. Oh, this is their journey through retail. Like this is such golden information that you can draw upon later down the road. Because nowadays you can't even rely on just saying I work directly with fabric houses and I source my material. You can walk into Joseph A. Bank and see Xenia and Rada fabric. So there's a lot of places where the conversation can get muddied. So the more you talk about yourself and get them to talk about themselves and create that story, that narrative, is how you can constantly recall it throughout the sale.
All right. So Matt, I have a follow-up question to that, but before we get you on there, Peter Roberti joined. So Peter, do you want to just have a quick 30-second who you are, what you do, where you're working from?
Hi guys, sorry, I apologize. I'm running a little bit behind. I had a little trouble connecting here, but Peter Roberti from Adrian Jewels. I am the vice president of the retail sales division. Built a business here in Rochester and Buffalo and Syracuse, working with individual clients. So looking forward to the seminar, and hope that you guys could get some knowledge from what we have to share.
Great, thank you. So we're gonna just continue with the storytelling and the branding. So Matt, when you're telling your story, are there any unique marketing strategies that you've used, or what platform has worked best for you? So what social media platform or in person? Do you want to just elaborate on unique marketing or branding strategies, platform they've been used on, and what those results have been?
Yeah, Alexa, my audio for you is my biggest resource, and it was very interesting looking at the poll. Only 17% said social media. Social media is my biggest resource. It absolutely is. It's what I use the most. I'm on Instagram. I try to post at least once a day. Um, I try to post at least once a day on some form of social media. I'm sorry, my cat's kind of getting at my laptop. So I try to post at least once a day on social media, usually Instagram. The number one thing to remember, and when it comes to pretty much all social media, you do not need to use all of them all the time. Pick one or two and stick with it. If it's LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, now they've got Threads, whatever it may be, just stick to one or two of them, because as business owners, there's absolutely a pressure to get on all of them, use them all the time. I guarantee your customers are just as exhausted by all of this as you are. So lean into that. That can be a part of the story as well. My really big differentiating factor when I'm selling is I make everything about them, everything about the customer. I don't talk about myself having the best product. I don't talk about myself having the best handmade product. I don't talk about myself, how I've been doing this. I want to know them, their story, what it is about, who they are, how they've gotten here. That's always going to be my priority. Every bit of knowledge I expel on social media is going to be to their benefit. It's not, here's something that I've learned and, maybe, no, it's how do I make your life richer as a buyer? How do I make you a more informed buyer? There's an amazing book, To Sell is Human, by Daniel H. Pink, and he talks about how it used to be buyer beware, and now it's seller beware. We have no idea how much information customers are coming to us with. So lean into that. Okay, you've probably bought custom before. Cool. Let's talk about that. Do you like half canvas or full canvas? Do you like this? Where does your knowledge stop? Because then that gives me a landing point to take off from.
Excellent. And just to revisit the poll, so how do you currently prospect? The majority are going through referrals, so that referral system, but we do have quite a few that are leveraging, whether it's email blasts, social media, all of the above. It seems like the trend is to get on social media, at least for a marketing effort, so you can get in front of your clients. Would you agree?
Definitely. I think marketing in any way, referrals, social media. I mean, I like that zero people put cold calls. There's always a way to get in front of people. It's just in today's age, how do you get information out to people that's just useful? And one of the most important thing to remember, just because you know it doesn't mean everybody else knows it. So to you, it may seem this is ridiculous. So one of the questions in the chat was, how do you expand social media posting without posting consistently? You can just say something like, wool can also be a very light fabric, and people will be mind blown because so many people come into your store and say, hey, I want something light, but I don't want wool. And you have to sit there and be like, well, we're going to do wool because we can get a lightweight wool. You have no idea how much you know and how much they don't know. So just post something about half canvas or full canvas or something, because it makes you interesting. They can share it, but then it also gives more to the story that the client can bring into the conversation.
I'm going to just add there, engaging with your audience too would be really important. So if you're getting comments, responding, liking to the comments, engaging with your followers as well.
I just want to add something there too. Can I add something onto that? So I think there's a difference between, there's always a debate in our office between like the difference between marketing and the difference between, sales. So marketing, in my opinion, I think is going to be all of your Instagram posts, basically you're telling a story. So like you're telling through Instagram and through social media, it's a lot of it's storytelling. So you're telling a story to basically fill this funnel, fill this funnel of people, and then salespeople is the ask. So it's all about asking. So there's a big difference between sales and marketing. So I think that you need both of them. So you need marketing to fill this funnel and to do all the storytelling, and then sales is going to be where you ask for the sale. You have to do marketing first, and then you ask for the sale. If you do all the right storytelling and you build the brand and you fill that funnel up, then it's more about the numbers and making sure that you're basically doing touch point with the marketing and the storytelling. Then you're asking for the sale and asking for the appointment.
And pivoting more towards sales away from the social media, Peter, what are some effective techniques or strategies that you've personally or your team has implemented to boost sales in the tailored garment industry?
So I mean, there's a number of different things that we've done. Some of the things that we've done that have worked out really well have, like, for example, some of you guys may have known we've opened up a Buffalo showroom. And one of the things we did was we paired up with strategic partners out in Buffalo. Some of these partners may consist of like a barber shop, a dry cleaner. We paired up with some bridal shops, or we're working on pairing up with some bridal shops. Could everyone hear me okay?
There's a little background noise, but it's better than it was before.
Okay. So we paired up with a bridal shop, a barber shop. We paired up with a dry cleaner. We're in an exotic auto dealership, and we've also paired up with a restaurateur, somebody that was in on Food Network. So these strategic partners, it was important for us to pair up with guys that have been in Buffalo or been in a new market that have roots there, that have been there for a long time. So these strategic partners were important to us to establish ourselves, to all of a sudden, if we associate ourselves with these type of brands and these type of businesses, then that gives us, then it makes Adrian Jewels okay, or Adrian Jewels is in the same ballpark or in the same playing field or playing the same league as some of these other brands. So what we do is, it's important to nurture these brands. So we were talking about it today, and one of the things that we do is we've got to get the most out of these brands, and in doing that is constantly visiting some of these brands. So, like, for example, like if we're gonna visit like a Johnny the Barber, like I go there to get my hair cut now, but I don't just go to Johnny who owns the shop. He has 6 other barbers. I've gone to a different barber every single time that I've gone there, because I don't want to just get introductions from Johnny. I want to get introductions from every single barber. So, and in doing that, if we go there, if there's a lot of touch points that we're doing throughout, whether it be throughout the month, and we're doing it, once a week, we're doing touch points, our name stays in front of them, our brand stays in front of them, and basically, you're going to get introductions from doing that. So, like, that would be one tactic that we're doing in this new market that's getting us consistently.
So, Peter, from the chat, it sounds like with this barbershop, how do you essentially say, hey, we could work well together? This could be a good relationship. You expand on that.
So how we made the connection with Johnny, or what that language looked like, was, basically what I asked my clients, hey, you know what, we've got something like, we did something like similar to this in Rochester. We paired up with some barbershops. We're looking to do a similar partnership in Buffalo. Who do you use for your barber? Who do you think would be a good fit for us? So I first use the clients that I have in Buffalo to make the introduction, or to provide like a prospect, or to provide a strategic partner. So I think there was like 3 different names, and then this guy Johnny the Barber kept on coming up. So I said, looks like Johnny the Barber would be a good partnership. So I literally called him, or maybe I sent him a message first, and then I called him. I said, hey, I think it was, the guy's name was Joel. I said, and there was a couple other guys, but I know Joel was really close to him. I said, hey, Joel, I know Joel gets his haircut from you. I love to, we just opened up shop in a showroom in Buffalo. I love to swing by your shop and introduce myself and see if we're a good fit. And I think that, we've done a partnership where we can make introductions to each other here in Rochester. I'd love to do something like that in Buffalo. And then he said, "Oh, Joel, I know Joel, blah, 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 blah. Come on by the showroom." I said, "All right, I'm going to swing by on Wednesday before my day gets started, before your first appointment." And that is exactly how it started. We did that with, we also paired up with another, I'm thinking about it in my head, we paired up with another, it's called Ethan Allen. It's a high-end furniture brand. We did the same thing. Similar language, similar conversation. And then I think the main thing is when you get into that meeting, you want to make sure that your morals, your values, and what your company and your brand stands for is in line with that company. And if it is, it's going to be a good fit. So now we're doing an event we're working on an event in October that we're doing with them. We've done photo shoots with some of the other brands. So that way, our thought was as we continue to penetrate this market, when somebody hops on our Instagram page or on our website, if they see these faces that people know, or these brands that people know in Buffalo or in a new market, then they're more likely to say, "Oh, well, Johnny shops here, or Darian shops here, or Russell shops here. This feels like it's a brand that I want to be a part of."
Then a question from the chat: when it comes to the strategic partners, do you gift them for to them, or is it more a we'll get your referral based?
Alexa, you broke up a little bit, but I'm reading it right now. It says, do you gift these partners? I think that it's important that, I'm just using these couple partners that are fresh in my mind as I'm thinking about it. Is I think it's important to listen. So when I would go to get my haircut, I listen to them. What's important to them? So some of the guys are into craft beer, some of the guys are into wine, some of the guys are into cider. So it's so we have a woman that's in Buffalo named Amy. She went in and she brought these things that these guys liked as a thank you to them. So you don't necessarily need to do give them shirts or give them gift cards, but by paying attention to what's important to them and doing that into a gift, or giving them something that they can't normally get, I think goes a longer way than and it's another touch point to go to that shop. Goes a longer way than giving them a shirt or a sport coat.
Peter, a follow-up question. You mentioned sales was a numbers game versus marketing was storytelling. So when you say a numbers game, is there a certain quantity of calls, messages, just a certain number that you or your team are looking to hit each day? What key performance indicators are you guys using?
That's a great question. I think that in terms of numbers, I think that we have something what's called a scoreboard, which is basically the first thing you need to find out is what does your what does your average sale look like? Is it $3,000? Is it $7,500? Is it what does that average sale look like? And then you backtrack from there. So if you know that your average sale is, and I'm just using rough numbers, is $5,000, and you want to sell, let's say, $50,000 a week, you know that it's going to take 50 calls to get 4 appointments. It's going to take 50. If you got 50 leads, it's going to take four appointments. Or you're going to get 50 connections, and you're going to make four appointments. Then you're going to have to if you know that you're only going to have 4 appointments from the 50 calls, then you know that you've got to make at least 250 calls in order to make 10 appointments, or 10 appointments, which will equivalent to $5,000 or $50,000 a week. I'm just using raw numbers in my head. What the metrics that we use is that we try and make I'm doing at least 100 connections or 100 touch points a day, whether that's touch points on phone calls, messages, I'm sorry, phone calls, direct messages from my cell phone, text messages, or if they're connections on like on a LinkedIn or on a Facebook page or an Instagram page. There's a lot of we do a lot of like if I'm going over after a prospect that I got a lead from. So say I'm trying to get in touch with Joe Smith, and Joe Smith is a client of Jeff's. I won't directly ask them unless they're a hot client and I know he wants to buy right away. I won't ask them for the meeting up front. I will do 2 weeks worth of touches and 2 weeks worth of touches and providing value before I'll ask for the appointment. So that would be connecting with them on LinkedIn. Once I connect with them on LinkedIn, I'll say I'll send them a message on LinkedIn that's not related towards sales. I'll then go into their page on LinkedIn. If they're posting, I'll comment on their post. I'll also Google them to see if they've been in any in the news at all. If they've been in the news, I'll send them an email saying, hey, I saw that you just opened up a new spot in Rochester, or you just had a great new hire, so on and so forth. Anything that they've been in the news, I send that in an email. And then after doing that 5 times, after 5 touches, I'll then ask for the appointment.
Great. And then Matt, so it seems like we're not doing a lot of cold calling, so it turns into a warm lead after you connect on Instagram, LinkedIn, or email, and you're, I guess, priming them for the sale just by building up some trust. Matt, can you elaborate if you're having a similar approach or a different approach, whether it's on a referral or any type of lead that you get?
Yeah, I don't do as much of kind of direct messaging. A lot of what I do is referral basis. I mean, 98% of the business I do is referral business in some form or another. And it really comes down from being involved. I try to find as many like events that I can go to, things I can support. There was a question about LGBTQ, like I'll go to those events and support or be a sponsor or something. So that way, every single thing every single connection that I get is some kind of a warm lead. Like somebody says, oh, you're the guy who was sponsoring that event. You're the person that was at this event. You're the person that there's some like real connection already there. So, cold leads are just, they're kind of useless. You're going to spend more time trying to convert a cold lead than if you just had 3 or 4 kind of warm leads. So I'd say if you're like trying to optimize your time and optimize how you talk to people, really look for warm leads, look for those kind of connections that you're going to use for people. That's like, I'm sending constant follow-ups constantly. I engage a lot on social media. Like if a client follows me, I'll follow them back. So that way, a year down the road, if I'm making a sale, it kind of sounds creepy, but like, I'll be like, oh, so you took a vacation last year. They're going to kind of say like, oh, that's right. You are like a part of my life. Like I do a lot of like subliminal kind of relationship building with my clients, and texting is a great way. Using first names only, that's a huge way. Like all of these things where you get the closer you get to them, because again, we're so replaceable in the grand scheme of the fashion industry. You can get clothing anywhere. We have to constantly remind them, this is why you work with Matt. This is why you work with Peter. This is why you work with, X, Y, and Z. Constantly building that relationship is crucial. But I have always found in all of my jobs, whatever retail form, being a part of a community there's nothing better, and you will constantly get referrals. Like every conversation I get, and the beauty of it is you get referrals from people at that attendance. Like I'm not selling the people I'm talking to at that event. I'm selling the people that they know. I'm always selling them. I'm constantly saying, if you can sell me as good as I can sell me, then I've done something right. So that way, when they go tell their friends, they're not just saying, oh yeah, Matt, the suit guy. They're saying, I met this person, he makes custom clothing. It doesn't matter for who, does men's, women's, whoever. Like, that's a better lead for me. So going to events, making those real connections is always key.
So before we move on, I'm gonna ask another poll. This could go over to the poll, and then I also want to see Matt and Peter, if you guys could share sample language for how to ask for a referral, whether it be from a strategic partnership or a current client. So let's share some sample language that we could do. So Peter, if you want to take the
Can I add one thing to what Matt was saying about networking events? I think that one of the most important things that I have found that have drive new business for this year is mastering the art of the stranger. So how quickly sales is all about transferring the emotion. So you're literally, when you're introducing somebody to, and when you're introducing yourself to a new client, especially at these events, you have to literally transfer your emotion to that individual. How you introduce yourself is going to literally going to tell you when that client's going to, from saying hello to that client to how quickly you're going to be able to convert him to a client. So literally, if you're in a good, positive, upbeat mood and you say hello to the guy, chances are he's going to reciprocate that back. If you're in a bad mood and you're not excited, that's what you're going to get in return. So how quickly you can make this guy that's a stranger to convert him to a client is really what's going to, at those networking events, that's going to really separate you from everybody else, and you're going to be the guy that everybody wants to talk to.
Great. And so at that, let's go for some sample language to asking for that referral. So Pete, let's close out the strategic partnership loop. But how would you ask a potential strategic partnership for a referral?
So how we would ask for an introduction is we would provide I would provide introductions to if I'm working with an individual or a client of mine or strategic partners. What I like to do is give them names, give them a list of names. So like, for example, if I know that this strategic partner, I will do my homework on them. So I will look into their LinkedIn account or look into their social media pages and find out who's commenting on their posts or who's liking their posts. And then I create a list. I create a list of people of those 50 people that are the brand's ambassador or are that client's ambassadors that are commenting on their posts. I create that. I look at that 50 people, and then I dumb it down to the people that I think are good clients for myself. And then when I meet with them, I tell them, I say, hey, I saw that you're connected with Joe Smith and Rob, and I've been working on trying to get connected with them. Is it okay if I use your name to reach out to them? Oh, and by the way, if they do come in, we have what's called AJ Bucks. So you're going to get a percentage of their first time buy. You're going to get it to credit towards our store. So it's kind of an icebreaker. It's because when you're getting when they're giving introductions, they kind of want to know what's in it for them. Like, what are they going to get out of it? So we do what's called AJ Bucks, which is credit towards our store. And when they get credit towards our store, so say they get a credit of $200 or $230, chances are when they come and use that $200, they're going to buy a sport coat or they're going to buy a shirt. It works out. So that's some of the language that's the homework that I do. Versus if you just ask for the guy, if you're meeting with the guy, you say, hey, who do you think would find value in our services? You're not going to get any names. You have to give them names. You have to give them areas in areas and industries that you work in, and help them, lead them to those introductions. or lead them to those.
And Peter, so for the AJ Bucks or like a loyalty type program, you're offering that to both strategic partners and clients that offer referrals, correct?
Correct.
Great. Matt, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I love sales so much. It's like just listening to two people do it in such different ways is always just so fascinating to me. I would like not do any of that stuff that Peter said, but it's so genius. And it's like I wouldn't even have thought about that. So Peter, thank you for that. Really what I do is I take a more like almost like an inception kind of a way where when I'm talking to people, I want to know who they know. I want to know who the referrals are that they have, but I want them to give them to me. And the way I do that is I lay out kind of the groundwork because the first referral that gets brought up is, oh, like there's a guy in the office that dresses great. He would be great for you. And then you meet him and the guy shops on Tie Bar and buys, $50 pants. It's like, it's not worth your time. So I try to lay out the ground rules. Like I'm a want, not a need. If you need a work suit, that I'm not your guy. If you want a coat for an event that you're going to fly to, then yes, I'm your guy. So really setting the ground rules for like what I do. I don't make clothing for like just your everyday life. Helps people start to work because if somebody's going to give you a referral, it doesn't really matter. They're always going to give you a referral. So I have to give you the tools to give me the right referral. I'll then bring up like, oh yeah, whenever I go to a wedding, I'm the guy who people are like looking forward to what they're wearing. They'll say, oh, I know somebody just like that. Or I'll say, I made a suit for a client of mine. She has never been able to find a sport coat because she did this. And somebody will say, oh my gosh, I know somebody just like that. And so trying to put it in their minds already, like, okay, I can think of 3 people that fit that description. So I'm setting the ground rules. This is who I want. I want the woman who's not been able to find anything in stores. I want the guy who, has a couple houses in a couple different states. How do I get those guys? Because everybody knows these people. So if I'm saying these are the requirements, these are the bullet points that make up my ideal customer, then that's the person. Like, don't give me a referral for somebody who has 5 kids going to private out-of-state colleges. That guy has no money left. So, how do I place those kind of guidelines that you can give me the best referrals possible?
Great. So definitely 2 different approaches to getting a referral. I think really important to ask for a referral, and you have a couple different ways. So on Peter, just to revisit the AJ Bucks. So is there a set amount? Can you elaborate? How do you determine the amount? Is it once someone purchases? Is it just giving a name? Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
I missed a little bit of in terms of AJ Bucks, how it basically works is if I get an introduction from a guy, he comes in, his first time order, if he spends, let's say he spends $15,000, the individual that introduced me would get, a certain percentage of that order, and it's only a one-time thing. So let's just call it like he would get 7% of that order. So 7% of 15% or 15,000 would be. That's what he would get, or that's what the individual, the client that gave me the introduction would get towards AJ Bucks, would get credit towards our store.
Great. So we are just wrapping up in the next minute. So I'm going to leave it to the chat for some final questions. So if you guys have any other questions, type it in the chat. While you guys are doing that, we will have more webinars in this selling series. So hopefully thus far, this has been helpful on getting new business, leveraging social media to reach out and engage your customers, and then asking for referrals. But we will have additional webinars on selling more expensive items, identifying your target market, your ideal customer. So just letting you guys know there's more to come.
I want to just add one thing that what Matt was saying. I think that I take a similar approach as well. in terms of like having, I think it's important to have strategic conversations or meaningful conversations with your client. So these conversations that Matt's alluding to around weddings or events or vacations are all geared towards clothing. So if you're having meaningful conversations with your client, it will help you, whether it's right in the moment or it will help you in a month from now, to reach back out to that client and say, hey, I know you said that your brother's daughter's getting married. I would love to help out with that wedding. I would love to reach out to your brother and see if I can help him out with his outfit. That is a meaningful conversation. That is an easy way that doesn't sound like you're asking for introductions. And people are more responsive to if you say, I love to introduce myself to Joe Smith versus, can I get a referral? Using the right language and altering your tone and using the right language will be what's gonna separate you from getting the introductions or not getting the introductions.
Great. So I think our next webinar, just based off of some of the chats and polls, it's going to revolve all around prospecting, identifying your ideal customer, and networking, which will be part of the prospecting function. But right before we leave, just two last questions we're going to take. So a quick one. I'll give this one, Matt, if you want to elaborate. Do you do handwritten cards or thank yous after someone purchases or you deliver the item? How are you responding?
Yeah, I'm always doing handwritten cards. My follow-up process is pretty extensive. It's a handwritten card is usually 3/4 of the way through. So I'll usually drop it off and say, send them a text or give them a call the next day. Thank you so much. But I always want to, again, going back to transparency, I don't want to say like, okay, one and done, you have it now, it's perfect, because it doesn't always work. Maybe somebody takes it to the dry cleaner and the button breaks. Like, I want to leave the door open that they can talk to me about that. So I'll send them a text right after, but I want to wait about a month at least. That way they've worn it at least once or twice. They've gotten used to it. Then they might tell me, oh, I think the sleeves are a little too short, or I think the sleeves are a little too long. Okay, I can alter that. I can fix that. The sleeves are too short. All right, let's fix that. Like opening it up for errors, because then it might be, hey, well, maybe it might open the door for, and it usually does, on the next one, I'd like to do X. That's their language, not mine. So they'll tell me, I love this shirt. I think on the next one, I want to do this. Or, I would have liked to do this. And then I'll say, okay, we'll do that on the next one. So that's about a month out. If it is like a seasonal item or, something that I know that they're going to wear for an event, I'll do 2 or 3 months out and follow up. I'll then ask after one whole season, so I know that they've worn it during that season that they want, do you have any pictures of you in the outfit, if they got it for an event? Or like, how did that networking go? So I'll ask them about what was the experience like wearing it? Because then it opens up a whole new door for, I loved it. People complimented me. Okay, well, they complimented you at that wedding. Do you now want to compliment them at work? Do you now want compliments for your son who's about to get married? Like, where can I now take the experience that you've given me? Once I know that first sale is kind of wrapped up, there's no problems, I know how they felt in it, I know how they washed and wore it, then I'll send them a handwritten note. That kind of seals the deal. And on the handwritten note is like, leave me a review or something like that. So any problems that could have arisen, I'm already addressing by the time I'm asking them to like leave me a review or send me a referral or post about me on social media, because I don't want any surprises. Matt did this X, Y, and Z, but the pants are too short. I need to know about that before you're going to post about that. So at least 3 or 4 months out is when I'm sending a handwritten card, because then again, it also shortens the amount of time before the next sale. So I'm always just looking for like 3 or 4 touch points within a 3 or 4 month stretch of time to open up a new sale and close the first one.
Great. So Pete, if you have anything to add to that, and then last question, this is Peter, when you mentioned prospecting, kind of like developing a lead, you wanted to talk to someone for 2 weeks, if you could go into detail what that looks like. Is it through LinkedIn? Is it through Instagram? Is it a text? Is it a call? What, I guess, matrix touch points are you using on the prospect?
I missed some of that. Matt, could you help me out? What was
Peter,
the question?
Peter, you got to mute yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, I'll repeat. So Peter, first, if you had anything to add for the follow-up, and then we had the last question that we're taking today. You mentioned when you have a warm prospect, you're having touch points for 2 weeks ahead of time. Can you kind of go into detail the matrix of touch points or the media? So are you going through LinkedIn, texting, calling? What does that look like?
Sure, absolutely, I could do that. The one thing I'll just add to Matt's thing is just going to be, or one thing to add is just going to be, to getting introduction is going to be just listening and asking the right questions. I think those are the things that is going to help you not only double or triple your sales, but it will also help you getting the introductions. Okay, so it's listening and asking the right questions. And in terms of the sequence, and this will segue into what my process is into converting them to a warm lead or a prospect to becoming them a client. And it takes a lot of work. I mean, we've got an awesome team back here that helps out with that. But the first step, if I get an introduction, the first thing that I'll do with them is I'll connect with them on LinkedIn. If they're not on LinkedIn, I'll try and find them on any other social media platforms. And then what I'm looking for is who they're connected with. What individuals that are already clients, what individuals do I have that are already clients of mine that he's connected with? So if they're, if I have a list of 10 guys, then I'm using them. I don't want to be the only person that's out there, selling for Adrian Jules. I need my clients to be ambassadors. I need my clients out there selling. So if I'm trying to get Joe Smith to become a client, and I know that he's got 7 other mutual clients that are friends that are mutual clients that are clients of mine, I'm using them to say, hey, do you know Joe Smith? Can I make an introduction to them? Could you make an introduction for them to me? Or is it okay if I use your name? And then I'll say something along the lines of, I'm trying to get him, get him into our shop. I think he'd be a good fit for us. So what ends up happening is it might not be all 7 guys, but maybe 2 or 3 of them are going to reach out to that guy and say, hey, you got to meet with Pete. You got to come get into the showroom. So by the time, so that's what I'll do. That's one of the steps that I do. So by the time that I'm going to, send them a message or comment on their post, it's already a warm lead. It's almost as if they're asking to sit down with me because I've got this whole team, and guys love to shop where their friends are shopping. And if they know that these handful of guys that are already shopping there, then it becomes pretty easy. So what I would tell you that there's not really, each client's a little bit different. Each approach is a little bit different. But I would say that using your clients and using your network and using the people that there's mutual connections with to help you as a clothier to get introductions or get them to become a client is the most successful way. And the way that I do that is basically a lot of it is through LinkedIn, finding out who their mutual connections are and who, when they post, they're commenting on their page or they're liking their page, and those are usually the people that I'll leverage to get the new client in the door.
Right. Yes. So thank you so much, Peter. Thank you everyone that joined today's session. So again, our next session will it'll essentially be a prospecting and networking event. We'll really focus on that, dig deep. But again, thank you everyone for tuning in. A recording of this webinar will be available on our platform to download by tomorrow morning, so in the next 24 hours. And again, thank you to Matt, thank you to Peter, and thank you everyone. So take care.